Hello everyone, my name is Joe, and welcome to episode 2 of our City Skylines 2 playthrough on Calhoun Falls. I did a little bit of off-camera work trying to run the simulation to get people to move into our houses here, which they did, and I also went ahead and replaced these two-way streets with some one-way streets, one-lane one-way streets with a lot of parking on one side and a nice strip of trees and grass on the other side. So I think that looks pretty nice for our residential area that we made. You'll also notice that I had to destroy a lot of the alleyways to get the people to put their houses in correctly, so they look nice and uniform. And I also am doing something different over here near Moonflower Street, where I think we eventually will want the tram to go. Now there's some funny business happening here, which I'll just fix right now. And the thing that I wanted to do is that I thought that these intersections were much too close together. So to prevent that from happening, what I did was I took out half of them, right? So for the one-way streets coming this way, I added these asymmetrical 3-lane roads so that these people can come right down this street onto this big-ish road and into this intersection. Whereas and I did that for all of the ones coming down this way. So for people wanting to go up this way, they'll have to come off the road here, making a right turn, which is efficient, and then coming out here and then, making a left turn onto this road, which shouldn't be too busy. So I think that will flow well, but we'll have to see how the simulation runs for that. I did the opposite thing on the other side, just mirroring it. And I also realized that I didn't have to destroy these parking lots completely for the businesses to move in. I just had to downgrade them to smaller alleyways just to prevent and just not put zoning on those bits of road. So they should be moving in correctly, and most of them did. And I will still need another bit of people moving in here, so hopefully they'll do that. And I also read up on the wiki a bit. So the maximum size for these low-density commercial buildings can be 5 by 6, which is what these are. I like the 4 by 6 ones a little bit more, honestly, but I don't want to make it too uniform, and I'd like there to be enough businesses over here so we have a decent diversity as well as these large buildings, because I do kind of like how these large buildings look. Yeah. One thing that's interesting is that you do have to add in a lot of the parking yourself with this game, just because this, if we were in America, this would not be enough parking for this building. I mean, maybe it would be, but that's why we have this big parking out of the way in the back here. Okay, so that's what I did. And I'm also going to fill in a lot more of these row houses here along these areas. So I also downgraded them along this way. And these roads aren't here just to get the buildings to move in correctly, like these guys did. So we have a good diversity of sizes. So this is a 5 by 6, or sorry, it's a 5 by 6, a couple 2 by 6, 4 by 6, and a couple other ones down here. So there's two main things we want to do in this episode. The first is to get the rest of these people to move in. The second, which we'll actually do first, is to build our industrial area and also a garbage dump, right? And start building a little bit of specialized industry. I did some scouting around the map, and based on the wind direction, we usually want the wind to be blowing into our industry that pollutes. So if we build it on the edge of the map here, the pollution will just go into off the map and it won't affect the rest of our city. We also have a reasonable amount of natural resources here that we can get. So we have some ore over here. We have some fertile land over here, which is able to be polluted, but I think that's mainly with ground pollution. And we also have some trees. So it's possible we could set aside maybe this sort of area as, a farming and mining area, and keep our heavier industry closer to this bit of oil, which we don't care about. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, we didn't build a connection over there, but we can temporarily import that from outside, from Round Rock, because we can just buy this tile that's right on the edge. We'll have to try to not make too much water pollution because this river does flow in the opposite direction of the wind, so that'll come down right here. And, you know, like we saw, our sewage outlet is going to pollute going down this way, and it will be sucked up going by the water pumping station coming this way. So if we build a sewage outlet over here, it will pollute this water. So that's not great. So I am going to connect this highway, which was given to us, up to this road, this 4-lane road temporarily. And we don't actually have the highways unlocked yet. So, I'm just going to use a different kind of road, right? I think that I am just going to use a 4-lane divided road for this. So, I'll do that, and I'll be right back. And for now that we're here, we are just going to... We would really like to line this up with the edge of the map here. So I am going to... That's going to be a little difficult, because if I try to put it near here, it'll do this, which will give us something that's correct. So I would like to come out here and I would like to do this, which will create a import-export point to Center Hill. But I think what would be better is just to do that maybe for Round Rock directly, and we could maybe re-upgrade that to a highway. So let me turn off that weirdness mode, and that's still Round Rock, and we'll get rid of that one. So we'll plop that out here, and a lot of traffic is going to be using this road, which is something that I didn't mention, but that might cause us some pain later on in the playthrough. So we'll fix that later. But for now we have this nice grid point, and I'm actually gonna downgrade that down like this so it has the same number of lanes, even though we won't really want that to happen. So I'm going to pull some streets off of this, which are going to go in this direction right along that border. So I'm going to build that out temporarily, and I will reset it to the city block design in a bit, once I figure out where this backbone that we're going to have where I would like it to be. I don't believe we want it right here, because we want a little bit of room to run, so we can maybe put in a highway interchange into here once we've got that or something. So I am going to put the road here, and I want this to be our main arterial road. And what I'm actually going to turn off is snap to existing geometry, because that was helping me fix some of the problems I was having in the last episode. Which, by the way, if you noticed, there was some fan noise in the last episode, which I tried to edit out in post, but that didn't go too well. So, yeah, I just turned off the fan. Okay, and so what I've done is I've put in a little highway roundabout junction here, which is not terribly efficient, but we're going to replace it again when we get larger capacity highways. And we might end up moving this point probably to more down here, because I believe the highway junctions take up a little more space than this. And I think we'll probably want, one of the T junctions or something like that. This doesn't need to be terribly high capacity. However, I have also noticed on other playthroughs for other industrial areas that we usually don't need that much parking, and that your citizens tend to not use the parking very much in industrial areas, because the workplaces usually just have parking. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to give all these people some turning lanes and destroy that one. And we are going to zone in this as industrial. However, I mentioned that we don't need very much parking, And so I think what we're going to do is option 1 is to put in these traffic circles in here, these roundabouts here. And then it would take extra space, and we could give them more parking. But the industrial buildings, I like how the 6x6 ones look, and we aren't getting as much room in here as I think we could be. So what I'm going to do is destroy a bunch of these, ones that go to the side, and we are going to keep it looking good and clean like that. So we're going to start zoning in some industrial buildings here, and that is going to give us some nice 6x6s. And I think that I don't want these to front the road for that. So what we could do is we could use a little bit of our flexibility that we've been given in this system to pop that and turn those into these types of roads, and then have these industrial buildings not front that road, because again, they don't really need much parking. And I like that a lot, so let's do that. And let's let that go. So I don't really care what size these guys are, and it looks like they haven't quite gotten this from the highway, so I'm going to upgrade that highway, although it's not really an upgrade, into a 2-lane road, and I'm just going to destroy that quickly and rebuild it. And now everyone's electricity and water problems should be almost solved, and they really should be being solved. I suppose you're not allowed to have that happening. So let's have it going like this, and it looks like we will need another transformer station, which I'll put here again. Sorry, building. And it looks like, unfortunately, we will just have to do that because it doesn't let us place too many of these control points in the same spot. So here we have outside connection electricity, round rock, and outside connection water. So now they've done it, and we're importing and exporting some stuff now, which is kind of unfortunate, and that's gonna get into a lot of our service trade budget. Yeah. But what we could also do is plop down a wind turbine. This area has pretty high wind that we built this in, So we could just plop down a wind turbine, and that will actually end up exporting a lot of wind. So, yeah, that'll be good. And we're just going to upgrade that. We're just going to fully upgrade that. So these people have started to build in their industrial businesses. And we're starting to get people to move into the city from this point, hopefully. And hopefully some people are willing to make this long-ish commute all the way over to this side of the city. But we've satisfied our industrial demand for now. And I think we'll put a train that goes there eventually. But for now, that's all right. And the other thing we wanted to do is to look at our specialized industry. Currently, we don't have access in this area to any of that stuff. So we could put in stone mining and livestock farming. So I think we could just let this ride for the time being, until we get some more people moving into our city and demand starts getting satisfied. So this area looks like it's pretty much fully built. So I'm going to connect back up these roads. So we will have some more traffic using this road because it's now become a through street for our highway connection that we built. And that's unfortunate. Now we have pretty high demand for that, and our unemployment rate we can check by clicking on it here. We are actually short on employees, so our unemployment rate is 3%, it looks like, which is strange because we have much more workplaces than we do employees. So we're going to build some more homes, and we're going to build out those row houses. What I've also done is I've plopped down this elementary school right in here, and we're either going to have a bit of parking or a park area in this spot. I think we'll need the parking a bit more than the park area. I think this will be a nice area for a park. But we can't unlock those yet until milestone 4. We can't unlock transportation yet until milestone 4 either. So we don't really need to buy anything right now. So I think we're going to keep, except for possibly highways or parking areas, but I think we're going to keep our development points for now. And we are going to try to balance our budget. So I'm going to zone in more row housing, and when our budget is balanced, I will come back in. So it's become nighttime, and our city is looking quite nice. Now, it looks like we will need more parking spaces eventually, especially along these row houses. But this street parking in the back here should allow us to do that. And once these businesses get built, we'll just be able to upgrade this to include the street parking that we want. And our houses are looking quite nice too. They're getting a little bit of experience, but they're not quite starting to level up yet. Now, I think the color is very wonderful on these houses, and it comes in a nice variety. So even these low-density parking areas are starting to fill up a little bit, which means we might have to do that alley parking that I suggested earlier. And I think we'll definitely want a firehouse over in this area. I think we can just put one into here if we decide to change out these for more or less parking areas. So let's do that. And we'll also want the small police station, so we'll just place that right next to the firehouse. I don't think we need any more space for fire engines. I tend to like the larger police station better because you can upgrade it, and you can't upgrade the other one. But let's also turn down that budget for the firehouse and the police station. Now we're spending way too much money on our medical clinic, so I might honestly just shut that down for a little bit. I'm just going to turn that off. And they don't really like that because, of course, I've taken away the medical clinic. But our traffic is flowing nicely around this large roundabout that we made. And it's flowing well up and down the street. Now, I guess it's kind of a blessing and a curse that I've destroyed all of the streets that were connecting the inner bit to this road, because now this is just a through street that connects both of the highways together, and we're getting a lot of that highway traffic coming down the road. I think I'd actually like to put the middle school, or the small high school, up in this area. I think that this would be quite nice for it, over here in this corner. So let's do that. We'll need to make the roads a little bit crazier to fit the thing in, but it should work nicely to be right here. And then we can still put a little bit of park here on this area or on the other side. And this might create a bit of noise pollution, but I think this area should be good to get to and work for everybody, hopefully. So we're actually starting to make some money, which is good. So I think we'll be able to turn back on the medical clinic. And that will make everyone a lot happier, but it will also make us lose a fair bit of money. Now, we don't have enough money for the high school just yet, but as more people move in and as people get happier, we'll start to have a bit more cash to play around with. I think that this house looks nice and interesting, and that's one of our bigger lot size houses. So they've almost leveled up to level 2, and these people are starting to level up a bit. These are actually almost on level 3, which is a very interesting thing I've noticed with the leveling up in this game. So the higher density buildings tend to level up pretty much immediately, no matter what the average wealth in the building is. And the lower density buildings tend to level up very slowly. Okay, welcome back. And what I have done is I have made this canal district and built it out in a way that I like. So we've got some nice tree-lined streets going around this area. I had a bit of a curve here and built a bit of a custom park as well by the cemetery. And I built a plaza here, and my goal is to put some mixed-use housing buildings around this area once we unlock them. And this space might be for a parking garage. I also wanted to make a bit of a curve around this place, but it just wasn't quite working the way I wanted it to. You know, we could have this key and we could kind of put it like this, but the whole, you know, it just kind of makes everything else look a little funny unless I take out, you know, a few too many of the streets. Because what we've done here is we've made a bit of a couplet. So we've made this a bit of a couplet. We've kind of made a few of those, but it's more of a pseudo couplet, just because only it's only a proper couplet when we're connected to the big road. After we get in there, the traffic can go both ways, and I kind of didn't like how this looked, but it's possible that I'm just warming back up to it. So I think I do like it, actually. So let's just try to fill that back in. And there we go. It does make the bend makes this look much nicer. So I also gave it some nice tree-lined streets. And the plan, oh, we also leveled up to milestone 4 because I just built all this stuff. So the plan is to make some 2x4, or rather 4x6 row housing, or not row houses, just the these medium density housing buildings. So we can build a couple of those, and they seem to be facing the right way, which is great. And we'll let those continue to build, and we'll see how that looks like. I also zoned this as commercial, just low density commercial. And some of our buildings are starting to level up. So that's a great thing. And this looks like it's ready to be fixed. So let's go ahead and do that too. And now we're going to try and finagle the game into letting us do this. So we appear to have done that. And I got a few points. So I'd like to unlock parking areas, roundabouts, train, and tram. And that'll use up all of our points for now. So we can place in this area, we can place a small single row parking lot just because it's a 2x2, and we can also place a motorcycle lot. Let's place the motorcycle lot down here, and we could place this small single row, or we could place 2 tiny parking lots. And if you calculate it out, the 2 tiny parking lots actually give you more total parking area, but this one's a lot cheaper, so let's do that. And this parking fee is set at $10, so we'll turn that down to 5 and see if anyone parks there. And we'll make this into a stoplight. Stop sign. Stop sign. Cool, so I'm glad that that worked out well. And some more of our businesses have started to show up, and so we can actually put back the parking on this side. Which is great. So you kind of just have to build your city in stages like this, or it will simply disagree with you. Who knows why it happens like that, but oh well. Anyway, some of these buildings are starting to level up as well. And we unlocked a few things. So we unlocked some bigger roundabouts, which I bought. So hopefully... Okay. So our buildings have been placed in, and I don't really like how these look. So that's unfortunate. So let's try to zone some buildings in different sizes. This is 8 wide, so let's try to put in some 2x4 buildings. And let's see how that looks. There's a really cool, 2x6s. And there's a really neat type of building that shows up sometimes, and I can't remember what the dimensions are, but it looks great, and I think it might actually be in this low rent housing category, but anyway. Okay, so let's take these office buildings and let's do what we said we were going to do and build them out here, and that is a 6x6, so it'll give us a nice 6x6 office building, and we'll do that there too. And I guess we messed this up by moving that. So let's move that back. Our school, I forgot about the school. So we wanted to build our small high school in this area, and that is why we changed that alley. But if it's going to prevent us from building that school or that office building right there, then I don't really want to do it like that. So let's just put the school in first. And that's great. So now we have a school. And we'll do this like before. And it looks like we're able to do it if we do something funny like that. Let's also give this school a little more parking. So hopefully we can fit in a long parking lot. And we almost can. So we're going to try to do that. And maybe we can get this to work, but I kind of doesn't look like we'll be able to. Aha! We've got it. You can always squeeze in another parking lot. That's the motto of City Skylines, at least this playthrough. You can always squeeze in another parking lot. So our city is starting to bustle, which is lovely. And because this building is being built, we can now re-upgrade our road. And once we just wait for these other buildings to get built, we can put the other buildings, or the other roads back in. And I actually really like how this looks with this slight curve here. I quite like that. So hopefully this high school will not have a 95% dropout rate for a bit. And we are totally broke, but we're making some money. We do have to import a lot of electricity, which is not great, but that's not the most of our worries. The most point that we're getting in our budget is the service upkeeps, which it usually is, and a lot of that is coming from the hospital, which is why I turned it down to 50%. So even though our hospital's on 50% budget, it is still costing us $85,000 a month, which is just horrendous. And look at that. It's just $85,000 a month. That is just why. The cemetery doesn't cost too much. Yeah. It will be a great day when we can fully fund the hospital, because it costs so much. But yeah, so our city is doing pretty well, and we've also unlocked the oil drilling specialized industry, and I remember we had some of that here, so hopefully we'll be able to start extracting that soon. And our crime rate over here, I turned up the sliders for the police budget back up because people were complaining about the crime rate, so I turned that back up to 100%, and that doesn't really cost very much money. But still, unfortunately, our crime rate is not great over here. But we have a couple police cars dealing with things, so that's good. Traffic still seems to be flowing fine around this road. And another thing I want to do, once we get the money for it, well, there's two things. One is that we built a few parks, so we will need to build a park maintenance depot somewhere to be able to maintain those parks. And the second thing is to pop down a small bus station, or either a large bus station, and we will start getting in some intercity bus routes. So hopefully that will help our people be able to get in and out of our city easier and not clog up the road so much, which they're not really clogging up the road. But that's mainly because it's a 2-lane road, and these semi-trucks are, we don't have that much plopped down along here yet. So hopefully this couplet won't become a problem for us, even though it's 2 traffic lights right back to back on this pretty busy road. So these look pretty nice. I do like how these look, but it's not the building that I was thinking of. I guess we're going to be building... Let's try to build the low rent. I don't really want the low rent buildings in here. And I don't remember what size it is. So let's try... Something tells me that it might have been a 3x5. So let's check 3x5. And let's also check 2x5. We're doing a little bit of experimenting today, so. I know it's not the biggest one, and I know it had kind of a shape like this. Yeah, so these do look nice. They're kind of like a much bigger design of the row houses, which is cute. And we are definitely struggling on parking in this area, mainly because I took away most of the street parking and added in trees. So hopefully we'll be able to fix that with a parking garage. So it was not this type of building that I was looking for. So let's de-zone that and get it out of here, because I didn't really want to build low-rent apartments in this area. And let's wait for these buildings to start building, to finish building. And after we try to see what type of building we want in here so I can show it to you guys, I think that'll be a good place to end the episode. So once these buildings finish, that'll be the end of episode 2 of our City Skylines 2 Let's Play, and this is pretty much where we'll pick up next time, trying to find the right buildings I like, and then zoning in this area for those buildings. And it doesn't look like the building I want is either of these two buildings. I like the size and shape of these buildings a lot more, so if I can't find what I want, we'll go with these, I think. Anyway, that'll be the end of the episode. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.